He navigated the world in perpetual darkness, a darkness imposed not by birth or disease, but by calculated cruelty. When Casper, a small beagle mix, arrived at the rescue, the physical evidence told a story too horrific to fully comprehend. His face and head bore the unmistakable signs of severe, repeated blunt force trauma. Multiple healed and semi-healed fractures around his delicate skull, particularly concentrated near his eye sockets, visible even beneath patches of missing fur and extensive scarring. And the most devastating consequence of this violence, complete, irreversible blindness. Both of his eyes, though structurally present, were unresponsive, clouded with the internal damage wrought by blows meant to inflict maximum pain. Casper wasn't just blind. He had been blinded by abuse. This wasn't an accident of fate. It was a deliberate act, a terrifying testament to the depths of human depravity, leaving him not only without sight, but also deeply traumatized and terrified of the species responsible for his darkness. Found wandering erratically near a rural road, bumping into obstacles, clearly disoriented and malnourished, Casper was initially mistaken for a very old dog suffering from cataracts or other age-related ailments. It wasn't until the veterinary examination at the rescue center that the shocking truth emerged. The pattern of fractures, the specific location of the damage, the neurological assessment, all pointed conclusively away from natural causes or accidental injury and directly towards intentional, violent trauma aimed at his head. He was likely only 2 or 3 years old, robbed of his sight and his trust in the prime of his life. The realization sent a chill through the experienced veterinary staff. This dog hadn't just lost his vision, he'd had it brutally taken from him. Casper's existence in the busy rescue center was fraught with peril and paralyzing fear. The constant noise, barking, clanging gates, unfamiliar voices, was amplified, disorienting, offering no visual context, unable to see approaching hands, bowls, or even the walls of his own kennel. Every interaction, every sound, every unexpected touch was a potential trigger for extreme panic. He spent most of his time huddled in a tight ball in the corner furthest from the door, trembling almost constantly. If someone entered his kennel, even slowly and speaking softly, he would often press himself flat against the floor, urinating in fear, sometimes letting out high-pitched yelps of terror if touched unexpectedly. Feeding time was an ordeal. He had to be shown the bowl by scent, often too scared to eat if anyone remained nearby. Walking him was impossible. The sensation of a leash, the feeling of being guided into the unknown void, sent him into a frantic, thrashing panic. He bumped into walls, tripped over thresholds, existed in a state of perpetual anxiety, lost in a world made terrifying not just by darkness, but by the memory of the violence that caused it. The rescue staff knew Casper needed specialized care far beyond what the shelter environment could provide. He needed a quiet, stable foster home with someone experienced not only with blind dogs, but also with victims of severe abuse. Finding such a placement felt like searching for a needle in a haystack. How could anyone manage a dog terrified of touch, unable to see, carrying such deep psychological wounds? His future looked incredibly bleak. He was a dog blinded by abuse, seemingly trapped forever in his fear and darkness. Then came Laura. Laura was a former veterinary technician who now dedicated her life to fostering and rehabilitating dogs with complex medical and behavioral needs, particularly those considered unadoptable. She had successfully worked with blind dogs before, understanding the unique challenges of helping them map their world and build confidence. She had also worked with dogs, rescued from extreme abuse, understanding the painstaking patience required to rebuild trust. Casper represented the devastating intersection of both challenges. Laura knew it would be one of the most difficult cases she'd ever undertaken, but reading his file, seeing the picture of the small, scarred beagle mix, huddled in fear, she felt an overwhelming pull to try. She believed fiercely that even in the deepest darkness, the love of patient, consistent care could provide a different kind of sight, the sight of safety, trust, and hope. Bringing Casper home required sedation and meticulous planning. Laura set up a small, quiet room as his initial safe zone, removing all unnecessary furniture, ensuring floors were clear, and using different textured mats near doorways, his bed, and his water bowl to provide tactile cues. She placed his crate, draped with a blanket, to create a secure den in one corner. For the first several days, Laura practiced near-complete avoidance, entering only to silently place food and water near the crate and immediately leave. She used a specific, soft, lavender scent spray very lightly near his bedding, hoping to create a positive olfactory association with safety. She spoke very little initially, wanting him to acclimate to the quiet predictability of the space, without the added stress of unfamiliar vocal tones. Casper spent those first days hidden deep within his crate, emerging only briefly, likely when Laura was asleep or absent, to quickly eat and drink before retreating. Laura knew the first step was simply allowing him to exist without fear. To learn that this new darkness wasn't filled with impending threats, she started introducing her voice gradually, speaking in a consistent, low, calm tone whenever she approached the room or entered briefly to leave food. "Hello, Casper, it's just me, Laura, bringing your breakfast." Always the same greeting, same calm tone. After about a week, Casper began poking his head out of the crate when he heard her voice approaching. Sniffing the air cautiously, Laura started spending time sitting quietly on the floor in the room, far from the crate, reading aloud in her soft voice, allowing him to get used to her constant, non-threatening vocal presence. She never approached him, never reached for him. If he emerged from the crate while she was there, she ignored him, pointedly, respecting his space, allowing him to control the interaction entirely. Building trust with a dog blinded by abuse required focusing intensely on non-visual senses and absolute predictability. Laura learned that routine was paramount. Everything happened at the same time each day: feeding, quiet time, her brief entries and exits. She used specific verbal cues consistently for everything: water, as she refilled his bowl; food time, before placing his meal; okay, leaving now, before exiting the room. She used distinct footsteps, walking softly but deliberately, so he could track her presence by sound without being startled. The concept of touch remained the biggest hurdle. Given his head trauma, any touch near his face or head was likely associated with extreme pain and terror. Laura knew she couldn't rush it. She started by simply resting her hand on the floor near his food bowl while he ate. He tolerated this, though remained tense. She then introduced scent work as a way to build confidence and positive association. She would hide a high-value, smelly treat under a small towel or in a snuffle mat, placed a safe distance away, using a verbal cue like "find it." He learned quickly, his excellent beagle nose taking over, and success was rewarded with quiet praise. This gave him a task, a sense of accomplishment, and associated her presence with positive, engaging activity that didn't involve physical contact. Months passed in this slow dance of trust building. Casper gradually became more relaxed in Laura's presence within his safe room. He started lying outside his crate more often, sometimes even dozing lightly while she read. He learned to follow her voice and footsteps cautiously around the room. Laura began gently tossing very soft toys that made subtle sounds a short distance away. After many repetitions, Casper started nudging them curiously with his nose, then eventually picking them up briefly. The first breakthrough with touch came unexpectedly. Laura was sitting on the floor, and Casper had cautiously approached to investigate a treat she'd placed nearby. As he turned to walk back to his bed, his flank brushed lightly against her outstretched leg. Laura remained perfectly still. Casper froze for a split second. Then, instead of panicking, he simply continued walking. It was a tiny incident, but hugely significant. He hadn't reacted with blind terror to accidental contact. Building on this, Laura started occasionally letting her hand rest lightly on his back. After he had taken a treat from her other hand, held low, always removing it immediately, keeping the contact brief and predictable. Slowly, agonizingly slowly, Casper began to tolerate these brief touches without flinching away completely. Laura realized that Casper needed to learn to see his environment through her guidance and his other senses. She meticulously mapped out safe pathways in her house, using runner rugs with distinct textures. She used different scent markers to denote specific locations. She started guiding him on a leash, a process that required immense patience, starting with just letting him wear a very soft harness for seconds at a time, then associating the leash clip with treats, then taking just one step together, always using clear verbal cues like step up, careful, turn left, stop. She became his seeing eye person, her calm voice and gentle leash guidance his map to navigate the wider world of her home beyond his safe room. As Casper learned to navigate his physical world with increasing confidence, guided by Laura's patient love and consistent cues, his emotional world began to open up too. He started seeking out Laura's presence, lying near her feet while she worked, resting his head on her lap tentatively while she watched TV. He learned that her hands, once perhaps symbols of terror associated with the abuse that blinded him, were now sources of gentle scratches behind the ears, soothing strokes down his back, and the reliable delivery of tasty treats. He began initiating interaction, nudging her hand softly for attention, or bringing her a soft toy. His other senses truly came alive. He could differentiate the footsteps of visitors long before they reached the door. He knew precisely where every piece of furniture was, navigating the house with surprising ease once he learned the layout. He developed favorite sounds, the crinkle of his treat bag, Laura's specific humming tune, the gentle chime of a windsock outside the window. He learned to see the world through love, the love expressed in Laura's consistent voice, her predictable routines, her safe touch, her unwavering patience. Her love became the light in his darkness, illuminating a path towards trust, security, and unexpected happiness. Watching Casper play, gently batting at a crinkle ball, or happily chewing on a safe toy, his body relaxed, tail giving soft, happy wags. When Laura spoke to him, was witnessing a miracle born of resilience and rehabilitation. He was still blind, still carried the physical and faint emotional scars of the horrific abuse he endured. But he was no longer defined by it. He was learning to live a full, rich life despite his limitations. His world perceived and navigated through the senses of sound, smell, touch, and most importantly, the unwavering sense of safety and affection provided by Laura. Finding a permanent home for Casper required an extraordinary match, someone with the patience of a saint, a quiet, stable home environment, a commitment to maintaining his routines and using his established cues, and an understanding that he would always be a special needs dog. After a long search, Laura realized, much like Alex with Maya, that she couldn't let him go. The bond they had forged through months of intensive rehabilitation was too deep. Casper had already found his forever home, the place where he first learned to see the world through love. Casper's story is a heartbreaking reminder of the cruelty animals can suffer, leaving them physically and emotionally shattered, like a dog blinded by abuse. But it is also a powerful testament to canine resilience and the profound impact of dedicated, specialized rehabilitation. It highlights that blindness, even when caused by trauma, does not have to be a barrier to a happy life. With extraordinary patience, understanding, consistency, and unwavering compassion, Casper learned to navigate his darkness, overcome his terror, and trust again. He learned to perceive safety, affection, and joy through his other senses, guided by the steady light of Laura's love, proving that even without sight, a rescued soul can truly learn to see the world anew.